it on that diagram. That's located in the wall of the right atrium, posterior wall, just inferior to the entrance of the sphere unification. That's the natural pacemaker. Why? Why does this set
The fastest to depolarize.
the fastest rate of depolarization, which means it can generate those impulses faster than any other part of the conduction system. Okay? You can see it sends out impulse then to the cells in both atria. That's what stimulates those cells to contract. In other words, contraction of the atria. Those impulses are also picked up by the second part of the conduction system, which is called the atrioventricular node. You can see that's located also in the wall of the right atrium, but it's actually the interatrial septum, just above the tricuspid valve. That picks up those impulses, delays them slightly, then sends them into the next part of the conduction system that's actually connected to it, which is the AV bundle, atrioventricular bundle. That's what carries those impulses then into the ventricle via the interventricular septum, the wall between the two ventricles. They divide into right and left upper branches. And coming off them are smaller branches called Purkinje fibers, which spread those impulses throughout the walls of the ventricles and stimulate the ventricles to contract. Again, they usually contract at the same time. Any question? No.
You said that if there's impulses via the ventricle,
Say again?
it goes via the ventricle.
Goes to the interventricular.
That's my root.
Yeah, all the interventricular. You can see it on the diagram. The yellow there shows the conduction.
Is there a model for any of this we transfer?
No, we don't have a model. That's all we're sure to do this. Okay. Probably can't show a model in front of us, but I could ask you, what's the natural pacemaker, or what receives impulses in the SA node, and so on. That's why I say know the location, impulse conduction system, conduction sequence from SA node to AV node to AV bundle to the right and left upper branches to Purkinje fibers. Okay, what you're doing today then, one of the things is electrocardiogram. As I mentioned in lecture, this is electrical or a graphical representation of the electrical activity associated with the heart cycle. Then the deflection waves, which I also went over in lecture, okay, and those are shown there on page 679. It shows that diagram that I showed you in lecture. Those are deflection waves. Okay, I want you to know these. When you do EKG today, each of you are going to do one on each other. All right, I want you to be able to identify those deflection waves. And on the exam, they'll be surprised to see an EKG, and I'll label the waves and say, what is it, and what does it signify? All right? So the first wave is the P wave. Okay, the P wave is the electrical activity associated with atrial depolarization. The depolarization of both atria. Okay? It's during this time that the atria contract, but that's not what is shown on the EKG. EKG is only showing electrical activity. So I'll ask, what's the P wave indicate? Don't say atrial contraction.
Depolarization.
Depolarization of the atria. Don't just say depolarization. I want you to say of what?
Atrial depolarization.
Atrial depolarization. Again, it's during that time that the atria do contract. Okay, the next wave is actually a complex of three waves. It drops down, that's the Q. Then it goes up again, that's the R. And back down again, that's the S. So that's called the QRS complex. And that's the electrical activity associated with depolarization of the ventricles. Yeah, that's when the ventricles contract, but that's not what's shown on the EKG.
It's also when the atria
Depolarization of the ventricles is the QRS.
repolarizes.
P is the depolarization of the atria. Okay, then you have a T wave. That's the last wave. That's an upward deflection again. And that represents repolarization of the ventricles. Repolarization.
We don't have to memorize how many seconds for each?
No. That's just reference. FYI. What you should know is that the T wave is always longer duration than the QRS or the P wave. Why?
Takes longer to repolarize.
Repolarization takes longer than depolarization. And again, the T wave is repolarization of the ventricles. It's during that time the ventricles relax, but again, all you're seeing is repolarization of ventricles. Okay? As I mentioned in lecture 2, you don't see on the graph in EKG the repolarization of atria, which actually occurs during QRS, because there's a relaxation, let's see, depolarization, such and such, or repolarization, such and such. Not such and such, but what you said. It's right here in my report.
Yeah, about Dave.
All right. Heart rate, that's something else you're gonna do. By counting the number of R waves in a 6-second interval, you're gonna see that the computer is set to run for 14 seconds and then it shuts down, the trace. And since you won't have a full 60 seconds, what we do is we count the number of R waves in a 6-second interval, multiply by 10, and that gives us contractions per 60 seconds or per minute. And that's the way heart rate is reported. Beats or contractions per minute. Okay. When we talk about a heart rate, I'm trying to go to 75 beats a minute. Resting heart rate, okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay, number of contractions per minute. Okay, bradycardia. Bradycardia is a term that means heart rate lower than normal, which technically be less than 60 beats a minute. This is resting heart rate. So less than 60 beats a minute is bradycardia. Now, people in very good physical shape can actually be in bradycardia. Their resting heart rate can actually be 60 or below. A lot of athletes, particularly Olympic athletes, they have a resting heart rate well below 60, and that's good. Tachycardia is the other. That's above the normal resting heart rate. So that'd be greater than 100 beats a minute, and that's not good. If you're in bad shape, or you've got a heart condition, or something like that, you may be in tachycardia. The problem with tachycardia, if it persists, it can put you into fibrillation. You have a loss of coordination between the contraction of the atria and the ventricles, which means you will not get an effective pumping action. You won't be pumping out enough blood in the ventricles.
How much above normal is the tachycardia?
It's about 100 beats a minute.
Lots of coordination
So
between
the normal range is between 60 and 100, that's the sinus
For
rating,
fibrillation.
and then it's your resting heart rate.
Fibrillation will be
Fibrillation is when you lose coordination with the contraction of the atria and the ventricles.
Oh.
And fibrillation puts you into fibrillation. And tachycardia then puts you into fibrillation. That's why we have these defibrillators, and that's what the paramedics will do too. The person is in fibrillation, they'll zap with those paddles, okay? Which basically gives you an electrical discharge right through the body, runs through the heart, and basically stops the heart for a moment, and then reset to go back to your regular rhythm.
You want us to know the defibrillation is resetting?
Yeah, defibrillation is basically stopping fibrillation.
Okay.
What you're doing is resetting hopefully the regular rhythm again. And you've seen all these medical shows, okay, and the guy's in the ambulance or rushing to the hospital, what do? They put the paddles on their chest and they say, clear, okay? You don't need touching the body, it's gonna zap right through you and defibrillate you as well, okay? And you also notice something else too, the body usually jumps. Even if the guy's dead, he will jump. Why?
Electricity, electrical current going through it.
Which also stimulates contraction of skeletal muscles.
Oh, yeah.
So with that in mind, when you're doing your EKG today, don't be laughing, talking, giggling, chewing gum, or you're going to get an EKG and it looks like this, because you have also electrical activity associated with skeletal muscle contraction. That's why ideally you'd be laying down flat, you'd be in a room very quiet, one other person there, you have a 12-point lead, and that'd be diagnostic. What we're doing today, as I said in the lecture, okay, only a 3-point lead, so it's not diagnostic. So when you look at it and say, well, it doesn't look like the one in the book, does that mean I'm going to have a heart attack? Okay? Not necessarily, okay? If you're concerned about it, go see your doctor, all right? And have a real one done. And secondly, I'm not qualified to interpret these things. I'm not a cardiologist. Okay? It should be read by a trained physician. All right? So don't come into lazy to me. But I do want you to know, what we're going to lecture today, the changes in those reflection rates, what they do. Okay? But don't take a look at yours and say, well, gee, I got that, I lost the P-wave, you know? I got an elevated T-wave, I got a hyperkalemia, or whatever. Okay? Any questions? All right, you turn the next page in your ladder objective sheet, page 5. Okay, we talked about the cardiac cycle today in lecture. Diastole, remember, is the relaxation phase of the heart. Which is where the atria and the ventricles. Relaxation phase. And systole is the contraction phase of the heart. Also occurs in both the atria and the ventricles. So the complete cardiac cycle, you have atrial diastole, atrial systole, and heart sounds. The heart sounds I mentioned in lecture next, use that lub-dub, lub-dub, I'm sure you've all heard it. There's a lot of film, suspense films where they have that heartbeat in the background. Things like that. That first sound, by the way, the heart sounds are due to turbulent blood flow. That's what you're detecting with a stethoscope. Turbulent blood flow. What causes that turbulence are the closing of the heart valves. The first sound is the closing of tricuspid and bicuspid valves. That's usually slightly louder than the second sound. So the turbulence caused by closing the tricuspid and bicuspid valves is about that first sound. The second sound is the closing of the semilunar valves in the arteries. On the right side, the pulmonary semilunar valve. On the left side, the aortic semilunar valve. Again, it causes turbulence. First sound, closing the tricuspid, bicuspid valve, turbulence resulting from that. Second sound, closing of the semilunar valves, pulmonary semilunar on the right, the aortic semilunar on the left.
Do we need to say closing of semilunar valves, or do we need to say closing of pulmonary?
I would say, yeah.
Right.
The semilunar valves.
Okay.
The pulmonary and the aortic semilunar valves.
Okay.
The other one, tricuspid, bicuspid valves. Okay. Additional sounds, these are murmurs. And in a young child or an elderly person, like me, you may have some murmurs, okay? Because the wall is thinner and it tends to vibrate a little bit. So you have some additional sounds. But in a healthy adult like yourself, murmurs usually mean it's a valve problem. It may be minor, it may be expensive, but it can mean a leaky valve, a common valve. You get some leakage of blood back in the chamber from which it came, or it can be a stenotic valve, which means the opening is narrower than normal. So that can be like due to a congenital defect. So both can cause turbulence, and those additional sounds we call murmurs. A lot of people have murmurs, and you can frequently live with them unless they get worse.
Some people are born with it.
Pardon?
Some people are born with it, not grow.
Yeah, it can be congenital, and it can change, and sometimes people acquire one due to trauma to the heart or disease. Rheumatic fever is a classic example. Some children have rheumatic fever, not as common as it used to be, but it's a result of heart valve damage. Or even an adult. Okay, pulse pressure or pressure points. You're turning your book to page 712 in your textbook. There's a diagram of the figure in the upper left-hand corner there on that page. And it shows the so-called pulse or pressure points. What these are, this is where an artery crosses usually a bone. Some hard surface. You can actually feel the pulse in the artery. This is only arteries. And the significance is, if you're ever a scout, a Girl Scout, or Boy Scout, you probably learned to use this first aid. You know by now that an arterial bleed cannot be stemmed by depending on blood clotting. So what you have to do basically is apply direct pressure to the spot of the bleed to slow down the blood loss, or you can basically collapse an artery at a pressure point upstream to the bleed. Now, I want you to know these, and they're listed there in your textbook. Okay? The common carotid, Corvidecki. Can you name? Okay, a lot of runners too. They'll do a pulse. Okay, what do? They're feeling that common carotid. They feel that pulse in the common carotid artery. Okay, when you exercise, you want to bring the heart rate up to a certain extent to get the full cardiovascular effect. Okay. Superficial temporal, where would that be? Up here in the tail. That's one of the muscles on your handout. Facial, where's the facial? It's when it runs over the mandible here. You can actually use the pulse there. Artery runs over the mandible, that's your facial artery. Okay. The brachial artery, where's that? Okay, here the arm. Okay, upper arm. And of course the radial, that'd be in your lower arm on the thumb side. And frequently when you take a pulse, or a nurse comes in to take a pulse, or you may be doing it yourself later, thumb side. And don't do it with the thumb, do it with the forefinger. Because the thumb has a pulse of its own. And again, don't make a fool of yourself and be probing over here. That's all. It's a radial. Now how you turn that, radial is always on the thumb side. Okay? Femoral artery, where's that? That's here, in the thigh. Okay. Popliteal, behind the knee. Okay. Posterior tibial, it's down here in the shin region. And one that's not on your list, but you should know it anyway, is the dorsalis pedis. That'd be the anterior part of the foot.
That be a bonus question?
Pardon me?
A bonus question?
Not necessarily. It
It's
may
on
be-
here.
maybe later.
Dorsalis pedis artery.
The last one.
Yeah, it's on
You should
here.
know these. Any of these are fairly good. All right? And too, it's handy to know too, because if you do, you stop along the side of the road, somebody's bleeding with a Good Samaritan, okay? Arterial bleed, you know these pressure points, you can actually apply pressure artery upstream to the bleed and go down the floor. Or maybe apply a tourniquet. Not a good idea around the neck. but on the arm or leg, okay? And remember when you have a tourniquet, you gotta release it periodically, because otherwise you shut off all blood flow and the tissue will can die as a result of that. That's why the tourniquet has to be adjusted. Okay, blood pressure. Blood pressure, you know, is a two values, something over something else. That first value, the numerator fraction, is always higher than the denominator, the lower value. And that's called systolic pressure. Systolic pressure is the maximum pressure in the artery following ventricular contraction. So it's the pressure in the artery, maximum pressure following ventricular contraction. That's systolic pressure. And that's the upper number you have a blood pressure determination. The lower number, which is smaller, excuse me,
That's your heart at work.
yeah, that's basically pressure following ventricular contraction. That's maximum pressure. Diastolic pressure is the minimum pressure value following ventricular relaxation. That's the lower number. So it's something over something, like 120 over 80. Quite common. Okay? 121. Highly major pressure. Ever heard about that?
What is it?
What's that in your blood? What's the unit?
I've often wondered that.
It's 120/80.
Yeah, what does that mean? 121? Or 80 what?
120.
Like resting heart rate over or under, yeah,
No, how do we measure? What units do we use? Somebody may ask you that.
beats per minute.
So I say, well, 120 over 80. What do you mean?
I've asked that before, but I don't know what it is.
You what?
I've asked that
And
question.
you never got an answer from a nurse?
Probably, I think it
Well,
was.
you're gonna be one, so you should be able to answer.
I wanna be able to
All right.
answer that question.
We usually measure pressure in millimeters of mercury, at least in science, okay? So 120, pressure 120 would mean it would support a column of mercury 120 millimeters high. Or 80 would support a column of mercury 80 millimeters high. And sometimes you've been to a doctor's office and they have something on the wall that looks like a mercury thermometer. That's part of a so-called sphygmomanometer, which we use to measure pressure, okay? And you notice they have a little bulb, they put this pressure cuff on the arm, and they pump it up. What they basically do is pump up above your systolic pressure and gradually release the pressure, and then, as the pressure is released, you get flow through that artery. And that the first time you hear the sounds, where you have turbulent flow, that's systolic pressure. You continue to release the pressure, the sounds get softer, 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 and then they stop. When they stop, that means there's no more turbulence, because now you're at your diastolic pressure, minimum pressure. So that's what they do, that's what you're going to do today.
Dr. Harrison, so we write it as mmHg?
Yes, it'd be millimeters Hg. Hg is the chemical symbol for mercury. That's how it's recorded.
The diastolic is minimum pressure.
Following ventricular relaxation. So systolic pressure, maximum pressure following ventricular contraction. Diastolic pressure, minimum pressure following ventricular relaxation. And that's what they do when they do a blood pressure. Now obviously the blood pressure is going to vary depending on what artery. Where would it be the highest blood pressure? What artery?
Carotid, the common carotid.
I know, let me ask you. Aorta. It'd be a little inconvenient to not do a blood pressure on the aorta. Cut open the chest wall, I don't think so.
No, it'd be kinda hard to get
Yeah.
to.
What I was asking is, what has the highest blood pressure? What artery? By convention, though, we do it here, the brachial artery. Okay, so when they do a blood pressure determination, they're trying to put the thing around the neck, or the leg or something.
Oh,
It should be around the arm. What you do is you put the head of the stethoscope on the vessel. They say you pump up that pressure cuff above the systolic pressure, and you gradually release the pressure, and when you first hear the sounds, okay, that's your systolic pressure. And now you got some turbulence. Prior to that, if you're above the systolic pressure, but you crank off the arteries so there's no flow, so they don't flow at all. And then sounds will continue as long as there's turbulence, until when they stop, that means there's no more turbulence, and that's when you don't hear anything. That's diastolic pressure. So when you first hear the sounds, systolic pressure, when the sounds stop, that's diastolic they'll use is called a sphygmomanometer. It's just a pressure cuff, and usually you use it with a stethoscope. And some of them just have a little dial like ours. Some have a digital readout, the fancy ones. You know, we don't have the fancy ones, all right? And then some may just have a little kind of working microphone as well. It's the same thing. What you're listening for are what's called the sounds of Karatha.
Sounds of.
Karatha. Now, there are a couple values I'd like you to be able to calculate. I'll put them on the board. Mean arterial pressure, or pulse pressure. Pulse pressure is the difference between the systolic and the diastolic pressure. So it's basically your pressure range in the artery. So systolic pressure, subtract from the diastolic pressure, that is the pulse pressure. Again, it's millimeters of mercury. Okay, that's pulse pressure. By the way, these are listed in your textbook, page 705. The other value I'd like you to know is called the mean arterial pressure, MEP for short. And you can see this is equal to the diastolic pressure, not the systolic, but the diastolic pressure, added to a third of the pulse pressure. So I could give you the individual's blood pressure and say, what is their pulse pressure? What is their mean arterial pressure? Okay? If you got systolic and diastolic, you can calculate these two values. Subtract the diastolic from the systolic, you got the pulse pressure. Take that diastolic pressure, add it, don't multiply it or subtract it, add it to a third of the pulse pressure, and you got the mean arterial pressure. That's basically the average working pressure in that artery. And mean means average. Okay? And there is no pulse in the vein, it's only in arteries. And the pressure will diminish the farther you get to the heart. And in your book, there is a diagram. On page, page 705, okay, you'll also see upper right-hand corner of that page, it shows the change in systolic and diastolic pressure as you go farther from the heart. And by the time you get basically to the capillary, you see you've lost the pressure. Okay? There is no systolic or diastolic pressure. That's just a uniform pressure. Okay? At that point, you no longer have a pulse. In the vein, you don't have a pulse. Any questions on this?
I have a question on
Yes.
blood pressure. I was just telling her, when I worked in the nursing home, they did a lady's blood pressure on her foot, on her ankle, because she had a double mastectomy. Why is that? Why can't you do blood pressure on the arm with a mastectomy?
She was doing it on the foot?
They did it on
Because
her
they had
ankle.
did a mastectomy, a double mastectomy.
Okay.
Why is it that you wouldn't be able to get a good blood pressure after a?
Was she very heavy in weight? Or?
No, they said that anybody that's had a mastectomy, you can't do a blood pressure on that side.
Okay.
And she had a double one, so they had
Okay,
to.
so they had to go to the, all right.
It's because of the lymph fluid.
Yeah, because you basically take lymph nodes with it too. So
And
that
it
could
causes
affect
them
the
to
pressure.
swell. That's what we used to ask.
Mastectomy.
Yeah.
When we'd ask if they had it, we'd do it on the other side. And if they had a double one, we would ask which one they've had more recent.
I try to do it on the other one.
Right. And it's because of the fluid.
Because you do take the lymph nodes and lymphatic system with it too, which can cause a change in the pressure.
I wasn't sure of it.
Anything else? Okay, what I'd like you to do, while I'm getting the computer set up, I'd like you to go over here, get a stethoscope, and a pressure cuff, single diameter,
Probably is stethoscope.
I know.
and do blood pressure determination for each other. Now, your left hand says 0 meter running,